Mando, and you kind of have a feeling that it's Brendan versus uh one of the other actors. You got a vibe. So when I was watching, I think it was the pirate scene,
Mm-hmm.
there was a feeling that one of those characters definitely wasn't you, when
Oh,
normally you
wow.
might have been in that costume. So
Which one? Which one were you guessing?
I know for the most part, I would say that you were the copper Navarro copper droid or whatever you're credited with,
Yep.
the Grief's right hand droid, as it were, and
Uh-huh.
you were not. Oh, he's better, and you were not the teacher droid in that scene.
Right. So the teacher droid was a character that I played in season 2 of The
Right.
Mandalorian, and she comes back because Navarro has been um, greatly improved and is prosperous and is flourishing
Mm-hmm.
city. And so you'll notice the teacher droid is all brand new paint job. She's all clean and no weathering or anything like that. So
Mm-hmm.
she's been kept up. But yeah, her and Copper were in the scene at the same time, so I had to get a body double for the teacher.
Right.
Um, and the way that yeah, so I do fittings and casting these body doubles myself, and then also have to train them in the art of droid performance. And a lot of
Very
times
nuanced.
the schedules are very tight, and so we try to get those done as fast as we can. But like I might have 5 people that I'm fitting, and 2 of them might work, and then one of them can do the performance. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's not so the gentleman that I used is a performer at Disney and Disneyland, and
Oh,
so it was a real quick scene, but it's really great to see the teacher droid back, and
yeah.
and being threatened by the pirates. So that was
Mm-hmm.
really fun. Yeah, but yeah, I could technically have been in both suits because we're not actually next to each other,
Yeah.
but we were shooting those scenes, both shots, all day. And
That would have been a
so
lot
I
of
would have had to
effects.
gone back and forth in the costumes, and that wouldn't have
So
worked.
in past times that we've had you on the show, you had mentioned that a lot of times you come on to the set to work and you didn't know which show you were working on. Did you know that you were working on season
Yeah.
3 when you work on set this time?
Wait a minute. Yes, I did know I was working on season 3. And I was so excited, because I came in at the very beginning because I was helping building the droids,
Nice.
Great.
right? Yes.
Ooh.
And helping solve color questions, and and builds, and how eye colors and stuff like that. And so anyway, yeah, it was a real pleasure to be it is a real pleasure to be working on it. And I worked directly with John Favreau and director Rick Famuyiwa and Dave Filoni each day, and it's just as you can imagine, just a real dream come true. Something I've always wanted to do, and I'm grateful to continue doing it.
So I read that article that you posted a little while ago about potentially that the white protocol droid being K3PO.
Isn't that funny?
It's fantastic.
I mean,
and when I was thinking about it, I'm like, it would have been great if when Chris was in that scene, if he just went back and screamed Ichuka, which would have been fantastic. Would have been a great callback back to Empire. But was there any conversation that was the same droid, or was it just that article that brought that whole idea up?
That was just the article. The thing is, we've seen a pattern in these shows, is that if we see something we think we recognize, it's not guaranteed to be that same character, right? We saw that with IG-11, and IG-88. It looks familiar, but it's new, and that's the hook that Mandalorian does, is that we see and we feel familiar to Star Wars, but these are new stories and new characters. So when it comes to droids, we also did it like with One Jack and Kenobi. He looks a lot like a Lam class droid, or is it for Lam? And there was that whole speculation, and it's not. It's a new character. But in the in the universe of droids, you know, I've said before, they're like household appliances or a car, you know, like everybody has a car. You know, you might have a, you know, you might have a white Toyota and I may have a white Toyota. It doesn't mean it's the same car, you know. Or
Well,
if
when
you
do we
sold,
get to
or
see
if
a
years,
protocol droid with racing stripes?
right. Yeah, that's an interesting idea, Dave.
I'm just talking about like something more than a solid color. I mean, I was being silly with racing stripes, but like if there's pin stripes or, you know, some
Well,
sort
I
of
did do stripes in Boba Fett, the traffic
And a
droid.
crossing guard.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, the traffic droid. I did stripes on
Racing
that one.
Stripes isn't necessarily so far-fetched. Did you end up seeing that episode of Bad Batch that I didn't want to spoil for you because of
Oh no, I haven't yet. I need to.
there's a
I've
lot
been
of
so
droid
busy.
action in there, and the paint
Good.
jobs are a little bit different because they are in a sort of a situation that you wouldn't normally see them in.
Oh great, I can't
So-
wait. This is episode 6 in Bad Batch.
I can't remember. Is it called? It's basically the race episode. I can't remember what it is.
Oh, the race. Okay, I'll check it out. Yeah.
It's either
Yeah.
it's
Hang on. Yeah, I've got the
So-
E plus open. I'll look it up.
So the
But,
likelihood or the probability that K3PO from the era of the Rebel Alliance, you know, the rebellion being on Hoth, and then the probability that that droid survived that and that now is on Navarro is low.
right.
But I thought it was fun that Looper put together that article about this long lost, you know, original trilogy character has made a triumphant return. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet, you know.
So clickbaity, though.
But I do really love that fans love to see the familiar stuff, and that's really what we're trying to do is to you know, things like, you know, when we were doing the coming up with the colors and stuff for these droids, you know, I said to Rick Famuyiwa, I said, you know, we haven't seen a white droid since Empire, and so we talked about it with John, and we are like, yeah, let's do a white one for the tourism droid. So I had taken a 12-inch 3PO, you know, and painted it, you know, and made my own kind of, you know, figure to show them, like, you know, this is what it would look like. It would be, you know, clean, but it would have some weathering, and you can see that in the episode. But yeah, it was a tourism droid, and so anyway, I can talk more about it when we are rolling. Are we rolling? Are we on?
Well,
Happening?
We're
Not watching the show
on,
yet.
We're live and in person.
Oh,
but
okay.
We
Not
are live
watching
on
the
Facebook
episode
and
yet.
YouTube. Spencer is still having some issues, but
I'm here, you know.
he's
Yeah.
back, so that's a good thing.
Yes, but no, if you guys have questions for Chris tonight, Dave, how can, you know, besides trying to make sure that I don't jump off in every 5 minutes, how can people ask questions for Chris?
Well, if you have questions for Spencer, just use Morse code in the telegraph, because that's about the speed of his internet. But for the rest of us, you can go ahead and ask questions directly in the Facebook chat or the YouTube chat. I'm monitoring both over here on a separate monitor. So just ask away, and at an opportune time I will relay those.
Well, I'm super happy to be with you guys. I'm really excited. This is a very exciting season of richer stories and deeper themes that I think fans of the show are really going to feel like they're getting their money's worth, you know, getting more in the new season, not just the same stuff. It's like these are new things and revelations that are going to blow your mind. I hope that wasn't too much.
No, it's so exciting, but even with, like, you know, watching the trailers, you know, leading up to the season and seeing, you know, what potentially could be like Coruscant, you know, and seeing things that, like, you know, callbacks to plants or you know, situations we haven't seen in decades, literally, is pretty exciting. You know, it's making the universe that much bigger and that much smaller at the same time.
Right.
I also like seeing the evolution of Navarro currently, because we've seen there was somebody had posted like a season 1, season 2, season 3 of a very similar kind of entry shot when Mando's coming in, and you can see the sort of that archway getting redone, and getting more ornate, and like the
Oh, that's
area
cool.
outside getting paved versus being
Yeah.
dirt versus being, what it
Yeah.
was prior.
That's very cool. You know,
Yeah.
something John has said is that he really appreciates fan generated content that helps explain, what's going on in this universe, in the Mandalorian timeline, and in the universe. So yeah, he really loves that. And like he was talking about recently in an interview where if you haven't seen Book of Boba Fett, you wouldn't maybe know that Grogu's been reunited with Mando, because the last time you saw him in Mandalorian, he was he was leaving with Luke Skywalker. So he said, I love that fans will, he said, sometimes when I'm watching a show, I will go and search, like if I haven't seen it in a while, I'll go on YouTube and see if I can get caught up to like find out, and people will fill in the spaces. And he said he loves that fans do that, and I think it's great. It encourages and inspires engagement in the show, aside or outside of just watching it, that like he likes when people are part of the show and part of telling the story.
What I like about what you've just said, Chris, is people reached out to me yesterday and today to say, I haven't seen Book of Boba Fett. Is this something I've missed? Yes. Watch 5, 6, and 7, and then we'll fill in the gaps.
Watch the watch along where we watched 5, 6, and 7.
Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, for me, a very exciting opening episode. No spoiler alerts yet, but so many discussion points, particularly around IG-88, which we'll get to in a minute. But when I watched this first episode, the lasting impression I got was when the credits went up was, oh, you gotta leave us right there. Oh my God!
I know.
I
know you want more.
On the edge of your seat. Yeah.
Yeah, and we
want that last bite, and that you're like,
right. And that's really the feeling that we want audiences to have, is to feel like, now I gotta wait a week to see the next one.
Well, yeah. And I find that like a younger generation, my daughter particularly, hates it. It drives them nuts. We're all used to episodic TV.
Yeah.
The binge culture.
You always waited a week. There were always cliffhangers.
Or years between Star Wars.
Oh my goodness.
Stream at everything now.
The movies,
they're just like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I know, right?
I need the next episode immediately.
I attribute that to Stranger Things, really, because Stranger Things was like one of the first shows that was completely like day one, you got everything. And to me, it feeds into, I hate to say, the ADD generation, as I like to call it, because it's like you need everything now. Whereas I thought that Mandalorian was the first show in season 1. It went back to our childhood of episodic. We have a full week to talk about and speculate before the next episode is, and not having to.
Yeah, we have lots of time to ruminate.
You know what's cool about that is your imagination goes, and searches and creates, tries to make connections, and you're wondering about these characters and stuff. And so when you see the next episode, the world is already bigger than what is actually on the screen because of what your assumptions you're making, or and then you're surprised when you've been misdirected, and now you hear the real conclusion. So I think it's so fun to do it that way. But yeah, I wish I could see all of it at once. But do you really want all your presents all at once, or would you like to take turns? And
I mean, there are people that do it. I think I still know people who insist upon waiting for the entire season to come out. How on earth that they go and live under a rock for that long?
For 2 months. I have
spoilers.
I have friends that were in the films that are doing that in the Star Wars films that, I think you've talked to Details. Like he said, I'm going to wait till they're all done. I'm like, oh man, now we can't talk about it for 2 months. But anyway, everybody has a different way of watching Star Wars. Yeah,
so we have looks like we have like 1 or 2 questions in the chat for Chris before we start the episode. Do you want to grab those, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely. Skip asks, what's your favorite Star Wars character that you've played to date?
Hang on.
It's like 1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, I'm thinking The favorite one that I played to date, I would say, we'll put 3PO aside just because he's so special, mostly because people recognize him immediately and feel a real magical connection to him. So it feels so special to be when you play that character around people or on set. So we'll put that one aside. I would say of my own characters, my favorite one, gosh, they're so different. One Jack was so cool because he looked awesome and he had such a different stance and performance or action than 3PO.
Right.
But Zero, I would say Zero is my favorite because I got to do everything I wanted to do. And I think I've said this in the past. Like I got a cool shootout in the streets of Navarro as an ostensibly different droid, but same costume. And I got to fly through hyperspace in the cockpit of the Razor Crest, and then I got a cool a magnificent death. And like those are
Interaction with Grogu, the little
interaction with Grogu. I worked with Mando the whole time too. It's not like I was in a crowd in a city or something. So yeah, I'd say Zero is my favorite. Also because I could sit down. So that was
nice.
also
That's very
yeah.
important in
That
costume.
perfectly leads into the next question, which is Ashley's asking, do you have a favorite droid suit? And what's your favorite one to wear, the easiest one to wear or whatnot, and what's the hardest one to wear?
Ashley's asking. Thank you, Ashley. The easiest droid to wear was Zero because he had no pants. I mean, like I was
The
just
droid has no pants.
has no
Stop.
pants,
Rewind.
yeah. So I could sit down. I was very comfortable. And then all the rest of them, I have legs, and they're all like standard protocol droid legs. And the way, if you know anything about droids, they're connected into the leg. They go down into the leg. The shorts do. So you can't bend. You can't like sit down like a human can. But anyway, so that's its own challenge. But I do have a dresser who is super amazing and very fast, and he goes with me on every show, every set. But anyway, yeah. So the hardest are all of them that are not Zero. Zero is the easiest. Yeah. I'm trying to think.
Ashley just actually came up with a last name for Zero. If you ever look at one, it's called Zero Pants.
Right, that makes sense. They called me No Pants Bartlett on set. And I was like, can we not?
But did that really have
Don't
to
let
do
that
with the
stick.
droid?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Oh,
That was just
right. I didn't think of that. I never wear pants.
offset.
So yeah. Right. Yeah.
That's always the worst part. We actually have to think about that one.
But he's so well-rounded, though. Having, like you said, all those elements that you were able to do with him or as him,
Yeah.
or even variations of him, whatever. But
Yeah.
that having to be able to do all those things in that character,
Right.
that is so cute.
Yeah. But he also looks really cool. Like, I mean, I know this is the exaggerated version, the Funko version, but he had such a cool
Zero
look,
Hunter.
such an imposing
Yes.
look. And I mean, it was cool. I got a blaster like Boba Fett. I was just really, oh, there you go.
Yeah,
Dave.
it is a Boba Fett
Yep,
blaster.
we got one.
Yeah. So he's fun to draw. See there. And
Here's a fun
yeah,
Boba Fett style blaster for you. Right here.
nice. Yes.
Or my foam stuff.
Cool. I love it. Oh, that's a foam one?
Yeah, it's all weighs about a pound and a half.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, the whole thing is foam?
Yeah, there's like a cardboard tube inside, and
Whoa, that's great.
uh
I wish I had foam
skirt.
weapons. I did. I
Oh,
mean, when I had the shootout in the streets of Navarro, I did have a foam weapon. But when I was Zero in the cockpit and I was, searching for Grogu, I had a full metal weapon, and it was
wow.
not aluminum. It was heavy, like it probably weighed 12 pounds. And so to try and grab it with one hand, I mean, I can do it, but it was
Got a nice
awkward. it's awkward, especially when you're a droid and you're trying to not look like you're making efforts.
Right.
You
I would
know,
have thought
you
they
don't
would have
be
been like resin
"Ugh."
castings or something, you know.
Right. Yeah. But
Light.
anyway, it felt really cool when you're holding it. But then if you're holding it
Oh,
all
right.
day, you're holding it out here.
It's old fast.
Yeah. Yeah. It gets old fast, right? But they are so high quality, really nice. But yeah. Anyway, hope that answers your question.
Sure,
Ashley.
they're amazing looking, or even, you know, just
Yeah.
in general. I mean, they look great on screen. So up close, they got
Yes.
Speaking
Yeah.
of on screen, why don't we watch the first episode of season
Yeah.
3?
All right. So we starting from all the way to
Splash.
0.
Yeah,
we
and watch
started
the
Disney
recaps
Splash.
Got it. Perfect.
and
Countdown.
volume down and subtitles up.
Yeah, so I don't jinx it. Does someone else want to do the countdown?
Well,
Sure,
hang
I'll
on,
take
I
it
gotta
this
get
time.
booted back up because I was looking over on Bad Batch. We were talking about the racing episode. That's episode 4, Chris, is
Thank
fast.
you.
So
Great.
And it's called what?
check that out. Faster.
Faster.
Faster. Okay. I can.
They're
Okay,
racing.
go. I need to catch up on Bad Batch anyway, because I need
It's
to.
got some ebbs and flows, but it's a nice. The season is I like it a bit more than last season.
Oh, great. I like season 1. So
Yeah,
cool.
Jeff,
but it's
take the nod.
here we go. So The Mandalorian, season 3, episode 1, which is chapter 17. And we're gonna do a 5 count. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, play. Oh, starting with this scene, man.
It's like, okay, so you're gonna break our hearts as soon as like the recap starts.
Take us way back too. That was so far back.
Oh, there's teacher.
And there he is.
Yeah.
It's the teacher.
Yeah.
So is that kind of a purposeful edit that because we're going to see you as that character again or that character again, that they just put the little clip of the teacher in there?
Well, to recap, to show that Navarro had changed, like the school
Right,
had changed from a cantina to a school. So it's just showing that reminding you that it's not a cantina anymore that was blown up with me as the bartender.
Yeah, so they start the recap with IG-11 being blown up, and then you get the Night of 1,000 Tears right before the show starts. So it's kind of like, oh man, you're like they're really
downer
Heavy.
mode.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was nice that they added IG into this. I don't think I've seen. Have we seen him in the helmet comparison before? I haven't. I don't think.
I don't think so. The droids were limited for the most part, but it's nice to see this sort of ceremonial thing of the armor's work.
Yes.
Emily posted a really great video from the other night of the person who taught her some of the blacksmithing, which is actually cool.
Mm-hmm. Her and I were talking about that on the premiere night about how specifically they wanted her to hit the metal.
Mm.
I'll let her tell you about that.
That's tough work. That's not easy.
No.
I mean, it's difficult and it's challenging.
Carrying a
It's physically
12-pound
challenging.
blaster.
Yeah. Well, and what's the over under on what we think the liquid is she's pouring in? I'm saying living waters of the mines of Mandalore. It's like Mandalorian holy water that you have to put in there.
That she
You know,
added to whatever the other liquid was.
There's a cue in the color of it.
Right, it's sort of spotchka.
It's kind of greenish, and when you go to Mandalore, the mines have a kind of a green tint. So I think you're right.
Mhm.
Sorry,
Hey,
I got
Jeff.
something caught in my throat.
That was a shot of Jeff's helmet being built right there. They
Right.
used it for the production.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
But
I
look,
should never go.
look at all the different colors, and they're all
Oh,
like
yeah.
really nice muted colors. But look, some of them are so mismatched armor and stuff. It's just what they have.
So there was a great Jon Favreau was on Kimmel the other night, and
Kimmel.
Jimmy talked about his nephew, and it took John a good 30 seconds to realize that they were related.
What?
Oh, wow.
I could have sworn, not sworn, I would have thought that that had something to do with the casting, but I guess he's good enough. He's been in
No,
this
this
is his
kid,
third
this kid is
production
great.
at least.
Yeah, he's good.
He played the young Tusken in Book of Boba Fett, and at least one other young character.
If just referring back to what you were saying a minute ago, Chris, if you look back to, productions, from medieval times, clans and creeds, they're not armies. They're just a makeshift bunch of ragtag, uniforms and armor and weapons that can be anything from swords to pitchforks. And it very much felt like that when I saw this opening scene.
Yeah,
Nice baptism.
Yeah.
right.
So
Yeah,
they're
this
asking
is-
over in the chat, has it said that Paz Vizsla's son? They're showing him prominently and the
I was just
colors in
thinking
the
that.
armor is matching.
It's very much the same color scheme for sure.
Well, they're showing Tate, like they're doing a lot of close-ups in the scene of Tate, and purposely, I think.
Oh,
I mean,
you're right. The color of the helmet
Mm-hmm.
is similar.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He said knowingly.
I don't know. Gotta
So
watch.
this is the sequel to
know.
Cocaine Bear. It's called Meth Gator.
Nice.
Mando Gator.
Yeah, but
But I remember being on set and seeing all these kid Mandos. I was like, oh, this is so great. I mean,
Ooh.
yeah, there wouldn't all be adults.
No, of course not.
Well, it's
And
a
it's
nice
a-
juxtaposition because especially when we were just watching Obi-Wan, when you had all the younglings
Yeah.
and the Padawan learners, there. So now you're gonna see the Mandalorian version of,
Yeah, exactly. Foundlings, right? And every creed or religion, if you like, one of the main ways they continue is that, they have young ones who grow up in the creed and continue the practices.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was a heck of a shot just there. It was like the helmet cam shot from over.
Yeah,
that was amazing.
Mando
Yeah.
flying away.
Helmet mounted camera. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
Very
every
the world style.
every
Here
part
comes
of
the
the
death
scene.
roll.
That's
every-
totally an alligator,
the
which
belly roll, yeah.
or crocodile style move, but it
Yeah.
then
Watch-
has
watch-
that feel of like another
like
type of creature, which
you-
they show in the
Yeah,
concept art.
I think it's supposed to be like a turtle gator because it's a shorter body and it has a
Yeah.
shell.
In the concept art, it's almost exclusively
A
the
turtle.
head is very much
The-
like a snapping.
This
Yeah.
this is the armor badass shot right there.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Everybody else is going with heavy weapons and machine guns, and
She's
she
got her
charges
hammers.
in there with a
Mhm.
hammer.
Yeah.
And a pair of pliers.
It's like nothing else is working, but I'm gonna go hit it with a hammer.
Yeah.
Which is
Think
why
about
the charges didn't work on the first
Right.
part of the sequence. But every time I saw one of the
There he is.
clan
it is.
being slammed against the rock wall or whatever, I just thought about JJ and thought, oof,
Yeah.
that's
But
tough
it also
work.
it makes a lot of sense that that Paz is related to the youngling because of that move that he just did. If you noticed, he bumped him out of the way and then started
Yeah.
blasting on the beast again. Like he was truly trying to protect him specifically.
I
Well,
mean,
I
the
also
heavy
like-
protects everybody, to be fair.
But that's
Yeah.
true.
He jumps into
He's there
fuck
to
everybody.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Look at him. I
Wow.
love all the meaty bits on the gooch. Yeah, there they are.
They gotta take some
Awesome.
of that back to Pelimoto, like the same crate dragon meat.
Big old chunk of meat.
Yeah,
Cook it on
exactly.
the pod racer engine.
And I think this is the first time we've actually seen the armorer out in the light, because normally she's,
Right.
in
Cover
the
of
forge, but you could see the
darkness.
Mhm.
full.
Usually in a cave or in
This-
the underground or under.
I
the
really like this conversation
space.
that
Yeah.
she has with Din here. And she
It's
considers
like, rub it in, twist
his
them.
foundling. He considers how this sort of punishment how it may affect his foundling, and
Right.
I thought this was really cool because she's very, very orthodox. You know, she's very fundamentalist and black and white, no
Yeah.
gray. And it seems
deals
like
in
at the end of this
absolutes like a
conversation, yeah,
But yeah,
that
she's
means
very
she's a Sith
matter of fact.
because she only deals in absolutes.
I
Right.
just said that.
I didn't hear
Well,
you. You broke up.
Oh, sorry.
So we got some kryptonite over there.
I'm not the only one with a bad internet connection.
Yeah.
Good to know. Yeah, that does look like kryptonite with like a chain code like stuck on it.
It's a synthetic one from Superman 3 that Richard Pryor put together.
Oh. Well, we can talk about Superman 3 more than Superman 4. So
Yeah, that's correct. But still, I mean, it was very interesting to see the mention of the Jawas. Of course, you know, the first thing we think of is, oh, Leilani found another thing and probably charged him like he charged Obi-Wan for his own like process.
But then
Steal-
Pelimoto,
Right,
you know, she actually deals that way, right?
right.
That's how she drums up business. This moment right here is great.
like, hey, how's it going?
Have they aged the hero child quite a bit? Because I definitely see some difference.
He was moisturizing, so he looks a little.
Oh,
No, he I mean, he's 50, so it's only been 2 years since he's been training, so it's not like he would really age visibly. I
right.
think, yeah.
But
I like to
that's
say
still
the
even,
child
like,
is the same
longer
age as
than
I
it
am because he
feels-
was 50 when I was 50. So
Yeah.
now he's 54.
Oh, right. So yeah. So a couple years later, he's probably 53 or 54. Yeah.
Okay, this at 3 o'clock in the morning Eastern time
Yeah.
freaked me. Like I was so
Look at that.
freaking excited to see Apargo. I'm like, oh my god, knowing what is coming, I'm like, that is
Right.
incredible.
I heard nothing in my head except for Ashley and Mark Von Olen just going.
Yeah, it was
I
Yeah,
could
it's
hear
so
it
great, right?
exploding from a mile away.
Rebels.
Yeah.
It was one of those things. Like Ashley and Mark are both like doing the DiCaprio move.
Oh, there it is.
And
Yeah.
that's a t-shirt.
Yeah. Now, keep in mind here, a little behind the scenes, when Mando is holding the child in his lap right here and he's moving, a puppeteer has to be right there.
All up under the Mando.
Yeah, so
You're
Brendan and I were,
extraordinarily personal and know your puppeteer well.
yeah, Brendan and I were laughing about that because it's Mike
Close
Menzel.
quarters.
Mike Menzel is the puppeteer for Grogu for his hands and other parts. So it's just funny.
That's great.
he's-
Yeah,
So I
well,
love the fact that first off,
see
you're
what we
you're
all
getting
did.
you're
Go
getting the entry video. I mean, you know, their air traffic control is calling in, which they didn't have in the past. I still love the fact that Mando parks like right up front, opens his cockpit, and walks out, and there's no issues with his
No.
ship at all.
No, yeah.
But there you
Yeah.
go.
And there's the white. Right.
She'll come up again.
You have to
And there's the
crank
chef from Book of Boba Fett.
Right.
How many languages do you speak?
Mom Kyle.
Kawaki and monkey lizards.
Did those give you like weird vibes? They totally seem like they're infesting that tree to me. Oh,
Yeah.
There you go.
That's,
Yay.
yeah.
Hey. Beautiful. I like it when it's white. It's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
It kind of a little bit like a throwback to the prototype Fett outfit that
right, very much so.
Yeah, it's a super commando droid. It's just hiding. It's just
There you
laying
go.
low. Yeah.
That whitewashed look is very, I mean, it works pretty well for things in this universe.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is one of those weird kind of Star Wars relationships with droids moments where you would use parts of the actual droid's body as part of a statue. I
Yeah.
know it's a plot device, but it's like, are droids sentient or droids not sentient or what?
So look at the little droids that are carrying
Yeah, those are the best.
Grief's cape.
Got to have your cape droids. your tail. What was it called? A train.
Train, yeah.
Train droids.
Yeah.
And he does the old Predator handshake.
Yeah.
They love that forearm handshake.
Yeah, I was saying in one of the other chats, it's like, wait, we must get like a Black Series figure of Carl with the cape droids.
Yeah, and also his right-hand droid. I mean, they would be a set,
yeah.
right? We would need to have that
That would be
figure.
perfect.
That'd be a
It's like
movie moment.
the little like
Right.
4-pack there, the little 2 cape.
Yeah.
droids.
Yeah.
But seriously, I know we've seen the scene a lot because they leaked the scene a couple of days before the episode. But just seeing Grogu swinging the chair and stealing the M&Ms and
Yeah, and if you listen, you can hear the Force.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not right now, but if you go and watch it, every time he goes around and he faces the table, he raises his hand, he uses the Force, right? Watch his hand go up there, see? And he's pushing off the table. And then you can hear the Force.
That's hilarious. I missed
Yeah.
that on the first watch.
It's like
Yeah.
a whoop whoop sound.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's complicated.
I love how he stops them. That was my favorite part.
Oh, I loved when he finally stopped him too, because to time that was funny, because Mike Manziel, the puppeteer, is under the table spinning the chair, right? And so by the time Mando gets to his line to say it's complicated, sometimes the chair would be not lined up. It's funny.
Ah,
Well,
Yeah,
I'm
he
sure
can-
it's not overly easy to see that the chair out of the corner of your visor.
Yeah.
yeah, that too. Just having gotta have the feel for the chair moving.
There you go.
so if ET has Reese's Pieces, Grogu has red M&Ms. You know, it's a great marketing ploy right there.
Right.
I love the hands thrown up in aghast. It's that, oh,
Right.
So is anybody else hoping that we were going to have Hondo and Naka as one of these pirates?
When we heard it was pirates, I was just like, what?
Now, what era was Hondo? He was Clone Wars. This has been like
Yeah, he'd be very
25
old.
years
Dude,
before this.
he was in the final episode of Rebels, so
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
it's very possible. I mean, I know like they haven't announced it yet or anything of that nature, but they had the epilogue, which leads directly into the Ahsoka show, you know, coming up. So
Yeah.
who knows, you know, where, but I think after Thrawn, that's the live action character that people are like wanting from animation.
what I liked about this scene, you know, you were saying, I forget the principal pirate's name, but the expression when you're wearing prosthetics like that is really just through your eyes, right? It's the look, you see?
Yeah, he does a lot. This is Marty Matulis, creature performer, is really established performer. I love him. He's a great guy. And yeah, he does a lot with his eyes. You're right. That was a good point.
Body language, good eye.
I love how stubborn they are
expressions.
about wanting to drink inside of a school.
Well, because it used to be the cantina.
Yeah, but it's like
and-
it's nothing like that anymore if it's a school.
Yeah.
So it's like
right.
there's no alcohol in there, first of all, and it probably wouldn't be that comfortable for you since it's designed for children.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
Oh.
That's a good point.
Okay, so Bryce says these pirates are reminiscent of pirates from the Resistance animated show, which more power to you for watching that, Bryce.
So what I loved about this, and it is very much, you know, obviously, you know, good guy shoot off, but love the fact that he shot him in the hand.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a classic Western trope, right?
Very
Yeah.
much.
But it's like, you don't want to kill this character because you want to keep him,
Right.
but you want to disable him, and you want to have gunfire because it's fun in a Western.
Well, I just like the fact that Carl, despite, you know, how old Carl actually is in real life is just
Mhm.
still playing complete and total badass.
Oh yeah, he is. That's how he is in real life. I mean, it's so cool to work with him, and he and I have become good friends. He's
That's cool.
he's also a director, and he's an action
Right.
film director, and so he has a real intuition for that.
Yeah, I want to know how much input he got on the wardrobe for this. Is Carl's going through the war. No, I want the biggest cape with the.
I'll tell you, Carl did not like the cape
Oh.
because it was the cape droids are CG, so he
Oh,
had
come
little
on.
wheels that were spray painted neon green, and if he walked forward and then turned, he had to be like, bring the cape around, and it was just funny because it was like his, it was more of a nemesis than the pirate. It's funny. So the voice of the copper droid is actually a friend of mine who I worked on another show with that I will tell you about later, is Parvesh China. He is, go look him up. He's super funny, a really funny actor. And so I don't know, they use I don't know how the decisions come up for who to cast for different droids, but he's great. And it's funny, I'm recording all the lines myself while I'm doing these. I'm putting all the emotion into it that I would do if I was doing the voice. And so I don't know if they're going to use my voice until I watch it myself. So until the other night, I didn't know if they're going to use my voice. But in the meantime, I filmed another show, not a Star Wars show, last fall with Parvesh China, and we worked together. And so then when I'm watching the show and I see the credits for the voice, I'm like, Parv, you were the voice for my character. And he was like, what? I mean, it was such a small galaxy at that point.
Mhm.
So yeah.
It's funny you're talking about that, because when Tate was on, he said that after he watched the first couple episodes of season 1, he had no idea that John was voicing him. So he's
Yeah,
like,
we don't know. They don't tell us if they're not using us or not. It's funny.
Well, and I would assume it's the opposite or the same, but backwards for them, is they have no idea like whose lines they're necessarily replacing.
They probably don't know the person whose line there, but they know the character. So like,
Well, yes, I would say they would know the character, but not necessarily the person, because I don't know. Well, maybe they would, because would they get the audio track of you speaking the line so they could match? Well, I guess you don't have to match up with droid mouths, but others.
right. Or Mando mouth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true too.
Okay. Right here. Is this the creepiest scene?
Yeah, so like
Yes.
horror movie.
It was creepy to film it.
It's like Terminator kind of,
Yeah.
Did they have somebody sort of crawling around on the ground?
Puppeteers were doing it.
Okay, so there was so that's not all just CG in terms of IG-88.
there you go.
No.
That was awesome.
Never
so far,
underestimated, right?
in the Mando universe, I have taught Grogu, I have tried to kill Grogu as Zero, and now I've saved Grogu.
There you go.
So I love it. I work with this kid a lot, and he's growing on me.
I like the fact they had the spine there. It kind of reminds me, Dave, you'll appreciate this, and Mr. Notman will hate it. But the
know exactly where you're
Borg
going.
Queen.
Yes.
Mm.
Well,
Very
and I
nice.
liked the movement is it may be a tribute to the puppeteers, or the puppeteers doing a tribute. The very kind of Harryhausen, almost stop motion movement of the droid in those
We're
scenes.
all big fans of Phil Tippett Studios, and
Mhm.
I don't know if they worked on that. I know that they worked on this episode. Anyway.
But it was an interesting decision point for me to have IG-88 return to the core of what he was created for. Right? It was to-
IG-11.
yes, I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. I was watching and reading too much of this stuff. It just gets anyway. To have that core decision point, right, for him to kind of go back to,
Vert.
because if you remember the last point that we saw him, it was to sacrifice himself.
Right.
At the very beginning of the recap, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So then to go back to, destruction mode, I thought that was interesting.
So
So
go
awesome.
ahead.
No, I'm gonna say this was so awesome to see the Azalea, the Babu Freak from
The Anzellans, yes.
from Rise of Skywalker, but
Yeah.
also with Grief, like trying to translate.
Yeah.
If anybody watched Galaxy Quest,
Yeah.
Sigourney Weaver's character, and her only objective was to speak what the computer was saying, and everyone was like, "Yeah, we can hear it." Like,
Yeah.
okay,
That's funny. And this, of course.
okay.
This is right there.
So yeah, this picture kind of looks like, I don't know, our Boonting Eve shirt from last year.
Lucasfilm has
Yeah.
spies. In
Our logo, which is right behind me on the poster that we
Right.
did a year ago.
Yeah.
Babu Frick, yeah.
Yeah.
But that was a great part to have them, to have
Yeah.
Grogu get up to mischief again and
Yeah.
pick up.
My favorite was Din actually inside of there. Carl's outside just like looking in. I want to see the deleted scene of Brendan or Lateef having to crawl through that door and get in there in the armor.
No, you don't. You don't want to see that.
Yeah, but how
It's
many
a challenge.
F-bombs do you think Brendan would have dropped if he had to do that though?
How much what?
How many F-bombs that would Brendan have dropped when he was crawling through that though?
I'll let him tell that.
Yeah.
But from my
That scene-
perspective, standing next to it, it's a challenge. So
Right.
they're just like, why don't we he's already in it.
Yeah.
That scene was very reminiscent of the scene with Grogu in trying to repair the Razor Crest, where Mando is sort of yelling at him through the little crawl space, as it were. This is great
Yeah.
with the pirates coming in.
Yeah.
It's a minor point, but one thing I noticed when I first watched this episode is the color of Copper's eyes. Because normally, right, white, yellow,
Yeah.
bright.
That was a
fluorescent
Doug
green.
Chang call. Doug wanted them green.
Mm.
They're originally going to be a pale yellow, like 3PO.
Mhm.
Yeah, so he was like, let's do green. I'm like, okay.
Nice to see the
Spinning,
variations.
That's a good trick.
Yeah.
Yeah, spinning is an excellent trick.
Huh.
I love the timing though of him talking about the controls, and then this is where your enemies show up.
Right.
Oh, by the way,
And there always seems to be a space battle with asteroids.
I know.
Asteroids are a great callback for
Yes.
Star Wars fights.
so
Definitely back to Empire.
Well, definitely, yeah. But including
Help me answer a question here. The dog-like alien, is that a Klatooinian?
Yes, and actually,
Mhm.
Phil Lamar played that in Fett.
Okay. This one is played by Barry Lowen, who you may know
yeah.
was
he was on the show.
a double for Mando. Yeah,
Yes,
body double for
he's
Mando.
been a guest of ours.
Yeah,
I call them the dog face boys, but that's
yeah. So that's Barry here coming up, right there.
Right
That's
there.
Barry.
yeah, with a mouthful of prosthetic.
I love this,
Yeah,
where he was hiding behind the asteroid.
That's like a-
you know?
These are
sort of
fun.
like a Top Gun or some sort of like
Yeah. But
dog
this is
fight.
something that we didn't get a lot in season 1 of Mandalorian. We didn't get a lot of space battles, right?
Right.
And it was nice to be able to come back to those and have a really cool one here.
I know we want her to get us to tell the story, but Misty is one of the pirates, right?
You'll have to ask her about that.
Mhm.
Credited as
To be continued.
He's in the credits as one of the pirates, so
Yeah, I guess you'll have to just ask her.
we'll talk to her next.
Now you know who.
And this is Carrie Jones.
Carrie Jones, who also played.
So okay, so
Who did
what
Carrie Jones
made me
play?
laugh initially was that he
Ooh,
played Man
Black
Thing
Santa.
in Werewolf by Night that looks
too.
exactly like this character. So I was
Oh,
kind of
funny.
like,
He's very reminiscent of Man Thing.
Just Man Thing with some, spray paint or some like put some clothes on him.
Well, in color.
Yeah.
Black and white.
Yeah, poof, turbo boost. He go.
Definitely an imposing character, but
Yeah.
the
And
voice
also-
sounded
Saying
familiar
how
to
he
me, but
loves
the
how
actor.
Grogu uses the bandolier as a seat belt there.
Yeah.
I love the glow from the Starfighter's engines.
Uh-huh.
I've never seen so much green in my life. Oh, wrong show.
Yeah. There you
I had to
go.
lose a lot of weight to fit into that costume.
Oh, yeah, he's a
Cool. A
like,
lot of corset work to begin with.
yeah.
Okay, look, Mando leaves his cockpit open and it's raining.
Not a big deal.
So I always wanted to know this. So you have the bubble there that obviously they usually put the droid.
Right.
Is Grogu coming from below? In that
That's what it
scene?
looked
It's
like.
connected. There's got to be a passageway.
Right.
Didn't they? Well, yeah, some of the ships take the droid.
I gotta
up
pause for a second, you guys.
No,
Okay,
go
no.
ahead.
Hello.
Uh-oh.
Hi, sweetheart.
Oh, hang on. Let me
Yeah.
see if I
How
can.
are you doing?
I'm working on it. There we go.
Good. I love the this version of the pram, except for the fact that it was raining in this scene. He totally should have done something that gave him cover. He looks like that little
Well, yeah,
back.
you would
come
think
up.
that the little thing is still on there. Or well, this is
So
another
there's sort
one.
of like a little lower version behind where he's sitting that looks like it would come up to close.
So if you watch Screen Crush, they actually talked about the
I haven't
fact
watched that yet.
Bo is sitting sort of like how Maul sat on his throne in Mandalore.
Right. He has that sort of that nonchalant kind of thing going.
I muted you, Chris, so you may need to turn your mic back on.
Thank you.
Yep, no worries.
And it's so interesting to see, obviously we haven't seen Bo-Katan since the finale of season 2 when she was basically like, I can't do anything, but now she's like right here, she's like, I literally lost everything.
Yeah.
I
Crushed.
lost my
Very
mission.
bitter.
I'm not even watching her at this point. I'm watching the amount of detail put in to making the castle evoke the castle or the house that Satine was in Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
They really made it a point of getting a throughput or whatever of Mandalorian architecture here.
Look at that sculpture of a Mandalorian battle right there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking that's going to show up in some sort of purchasable form.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
One of the YouTube things zoomed in on that, and they said that there might have been the Par Vizsla with the Darksaber for the first time battle.
Oh.
Stuff we've seen like in other shows, but in animation form.
Well, yeah, and I love the really the detail that the rain mist, the drops on Mando's helmet in this. It's just
And she was just so dismissive at the end.
Yeah, exactly.
Fine,
She's
yeah.
like, you can leave now.
boom.
And that's another thing I loved is they kept the artwork at the end,
Yeah.
As the original concepts.
Yeah.
I really like that snapping turtle version of that beast.
Yeah. Yeah.
But right here, got some great names
yeah.
that we've seen before, and then some other ones
Yeah.
that we hadn't seen before.
There's Leilani.
Brendan and
Yeah, give it up to Brendan and Latif for getting on the main.
Yes.
slide.
That's
I know,
really cool.
I
Yeah,
know a lot of you guys were posting about that on social media, but that's a huge deal for them.
it is a big deal. And in fact, at the premiere, when Pedro got up on stage, he said, "Brendan and Latif, I see you." And the whole crowd went wild. So that was really cool.
That's great.
Very cool.
Yeah, they put so much work into this show. And now they have they're on we call them the big credits screens.
Yeah.
You
They
know, the
truly
top.
breathe life into those characters. I mean,
Yeah.
or that
Yeah.
character, I should say.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
Yeah,
Some of the best stuff is the
start of the
costume.
pirate main ship there. I wish we'd seen more of that in the actual episode.
With that open top.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I just paused, and we got Tate, we got Wesley, we got Parvish, Shirley Henderson back, which is awesome.
Moaning Myrtle, right?
Yep, absolutely. But yeah,
Yeah.
so this next one, when I paused on, I'm like, all right, there's JJ, there's Chris, there's Misty, there's Barry. I was like, okay, so we've had most of that list on their show. This is awesome.
JJ's in that list.
Yeah,
Who are you missing? Let's see who. have you
Well, actually,
not
JJ's
had?
there twice.
yeah, he is. We haven't met Joanna, but Iad told me that Joanna beat the crap out of him in Boba Fett.
Yeah, Joanna's awesome. I've worked with her on this season.
I also noticed that Jesse Graff
From
listed
Ninja
as-
Warrior.
Yeah.
And, well, she was a lot of things before Ninja Warrior.
Well,
but
that's
she was
where
being a
I
stunt
know her
woman.
from specifically is, but she also doubled for didn't she do some like Wonder Woman stuff as well? But a lot of action superhero type stuff. Did she work on the seasons before, or do you have any idea?
Jesse Graff.
Yeah, the stunt. She's a stunt performer.
Yeah, I'm
from-
not. I couldn't say. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I don't remember seeing her name listed, so because we're
Look
usually
at,
looking.
they have Mandalorian drummers.
Yeah, that whole,
Like,
this is the band.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's,
that's pretty
it's also
cool.
nice to see Dawn Dinger back, and she did a lot of work in FET as well.
Oh my gosh, she's done a lot of work and everything. I mean, oh, wait a minute, hang on. Well, she works at Legacy Effects. She's a creature maker. And that she's played creatures too, like Rhodians and Rhodians a couple times.
Yeah.
And what's so great about Dawn is she's so talented and she's so humble. I got to see her again at the premiere. Have you ever had her on to talk to her?
We have not, but I'm friends with her on social media, so I should definitely put that on my list.
Yeah, I love Dawn. She was on my first days of filming. She was also not only all the stuff she was doing, creating creatures and doing the costumes, but she was also dressing me as Zero, and so she would have to run back and forth from doing dressing me and then going and puppeteering or dressing for other people. I mean, she's just really dedicated. And such a nice person to work with.
So we're so excited that we're back, Mando's back, and we're gonna we have Mando literally bringing us right through Celebration, which is pretty awesome in itself. Let the speculation begin. But it's pretty awesome about that. So with this in mind, non-committal, what should we expect out of this season?
Okay, I'm gonna tell you everything. You're gonna see richer stories. You're gonna see deeper themes, with what let's say Din Djarin goes through, what Grogu goes through, what the armor goes through, like, and what Bo-Katan, what the droids go through. I mean, they are some deeper kind of themes that are still younger viewers will be able to appreciate, but the richness of some of these themes will really be appreciated by people who have parents or are parents or or have gone through some kind of maybe I think it's safe to say faith crisis, or maybe have investigated a certain creed or religion, or have either joined one or become inactive. They're really really interesting, and also what's true, versus legend versus what's real. That whole theme is really cool and explored in this, because you can see Bo-Katan is like, you're a cult, and your cult fractured our people, and
Right.
he's saying, but if there's no creed, what are we without the creed? It says,
Right.
he says in the trailer. So it's a really interesting, like, I feel like it's something that that everyone can relate to in some way, like whether you were raised a certain way, or you made a life change, or you're struggling with what's true and thing. It's so great this season.
Universal questions kind of
So
thing.
I'm going to ask you
Right.
2 questions that we asked Emily and Tate a couple
Okay.
weeks ago,
Yeah.
and see what your answers are.
Okay,
If you were
purple
to-
and 1079.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
Exactly
Marvin.
what
If you were going to bet money on a
Mhm.
fight between the Armorer and Bo-Katan, who would you put money on?
Oh, they are both very good friends of mine. I would say between Bo-Katan and the Armorer, a fight. Are we with all their armaments, whatever they have with them, right?
I mean, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, the Armorer could have her tongs if she wants to.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
she's very close quarters combat, whereas Bo-Katan is, I guess she is also, but she's also got missiles and firearms and stuff. I guess I would say Bo-Katan, only because she has range weapons,
So it's Bo-Katan for the Batman versus Superman aspect of it, is
Yeah.
she's the gadgets.
Well, let's see. But then the armor is armored, well armored,
Right.
with, so I don't know. I'm gonna say Bo-Katan.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you had in all of the Star Wars lore,
Mhm.
if you had to choose who was the Mandalore, who would you choose?
Who was the Mandalore?
Basically, the
Who-
keeper
who
of the
should
dark
be?
saber,
Now
right?
should be
The
the
leader of the Mandalorians.
Who should be the leader of the Mandalorians? Like the original one, or the one now? Who should be it now?
It doesn't really matter because if you look at from the animation, I mean, at one time Darth Maul was the Mandalore, the keeper of the dark saber,
I
and
see. Okay.
Palpatine actually won it, but never took the power of that. So it could be anybody within Star Wars to have could potentially be the leader of the Mandalorians.
If we rephrase it slightly differently, if you could pick somebody to be the ruler of Mandalore,
Oh,
who
wow.
would it be?
Kidster.
And it can't be a droid.
Kidster.
Can't be a droid.
So wizard. Okay, if I can't pick a power droid or a gonk droid, I would say oh, that's a tough one. I mean, someone who would be let's see. I don't know. I was gonna say Obi-Wan, but Obi-Wan didn't believe their creed. I don't think he believed in the Force, and the Force is constant through everything. So I don't know if you have to believe in the myth of the Mandalore, and I'm not sure. I would say who would be most worthy, maybe, or the most capable. I guess I would say Yoda or Obi-Wan.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I
Neither
mean,
of them
that
are
would be
Mandalorians, but
something to see right there is, the Sith aren't going to pull an Order 66 with Yoda and an army of Mandalorians behind them.
yeah. Now Obi-Wan did wear Mandalorian armor at one point,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
He did.
He also had a very close connection to Mandalore. We don't know.
Where's Mark
exactly.
talking about Corky Kreese over here? Oh, there he goes, right there, right on cue. Ashley.
And there it goes, right there in the comments is talking about.
Well, and that's actually something that I would love for them to touch upon in live action.
We
Is
already said
actually
it.
the Satine storyline. And hopefully we're
Yeah.
gonna go deeper with Bo to tie that into there, because I know
Because she's her sister, right?
it's her
Mm.
sister,
Yeah.
and she was the one of the interviews I actually saw during the press junket that Kay did. She talked a little bit about the story of the House of Kreese, of
Mhm.
how that her sister was the politician, the diplomat, and
Yeah.
and Bo was trained to be the warrior of the family.
Mhm. Yeah.
So to see that storyline, hopefully, talking about that and tying in, into Obi-Wan as well. And we all talk about, like, this is the Filoni verse. So basically Dave's pulling from everywhere. So
Mhm.
that would be actually kind of cool, because that was a Dave and Georgeism with Satine.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and Bo from this. That would be actually kind of cool.
Oh man, I would love to, because that's a mystery, right? About how close Obi-Wan was to Satine.
Yes.
But I kind of like that it's a mystery, like what, we don't fully know Obi-Wan's the extent of his discipline. But anyway, yeah, you're right. They're all related in the Filoniverse. So it
Which is
would be
actually kinda
cool, even if they just touched on it, kind of like in Obi-Wan, where Obi-Wan was reaching out to Qui-Gon and just never could make a connection until the very end. That was really special. It would be kind of neat if there was, well, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. So I'm not,
No,
I'm just
It's
speculating
the
with you.
interesting
I can
question. Will we
speculate myself.
respect Obi-Wan more if he gave in and had those feelings that we all think he has rights to, or
Yeah.
or not? Would
Well,
we?
if you remember,
Yeah.
he did say to Satine, "Is like, if you asked me, I would have left the Jedi Order."
Right.
And
That's a
it's
big
there.
deal.
So if you also want to look into that, he was honestly, he knew about Anakin Padme. He was not blind. I don't think he was blind. And when he asked her if he's the father, he already knew the answer to the question. He just wanted her
Right.
to say it out loud. So I
Yeah.
think because of the whole thing, he understood the the urge per se.
I mean, he was human. I mean,
Yeah.
the urge you're talking about is human connection, to be able to love somebody and be loved. I mean, that's the ultimate connection, that where you don't feel alone, I think, in the galaxy. And so, he was human in that, whether he held on to the creed of the Jedi rules. Yeah, like Dave said, I wonder if we would respect him more. I would definitely be able to relate to him more. If he was like, well, I'm gonna make a choice that may, just like Din Djarin did with taking off his helmet. He did that for love, because he in love for his son, you could say, to be able to show him that he's his real father. He's not just a suit of armor. I'm sure everybody in the universe. I mean, that's what got Anakin, right? Anakin, you could say he did all that for love, that, or at least the human connection. She just chose a real destructive way, but yeah, anyway.
Yeah, I think for me, real quick, probably being speculative and a little subjective. We see right now the kind of storyline going along. Atonement. I have to, become part of the Mandalorian creed again because I've transgressed.
Yeah.
And I think there's going to be some interesting decision points that are going to happen where, based on, because we saw it slightly in this episode where Grogu's looking at him as if to say, no, we shouldn't do this. And I think those interactions are maybe going to happen a little bit more, or maybe Din is going to lose sight of what he's actually doing with Grogu, and vice versa. I think that's going to be a smashing opportunity for maybe some, diversity in storyline.
And I also want to
you're
see
right.
the relationship as well, is that even we saw that in the Book of Boba Fett, is that even though that Din had the dark saber, he was completely still subservient to the armorer. So what's the hold that the armorer has over Din Djarin?
Okay, this is something that people who are not, let's say, members of high demand creeds or high demand religions, you could say, may not be able to appreciate, is that the leader of that group is charismatic in a way that there's, when you're in a high demand, say, religion, the more you sacrifice for that creed, the more you are dug in and the more that you are connected to this. So, you know, if the creed requires that you give all of your time, all of your abilities, maybe all of your belongings, you know, you are really connected to this, because if it's wrong, then what have you been doing the whole time? And I think that's a really, you know, to answer your question, like, why is he, what power does she have over him when he's got the, you know, the dark saber? Like, well, why couldn't he just say, I'm the ruler now? And, you know, I think it goes to his commitment to the creed, to the order, and also that he is a humble guy. You know, it takes humility to say, well, I have the power to supersede you, but I'm going to still trust that you are an inspired leader.
We both flat out said that in the episode. She just said, why don't you just go outside and wave the saber and everybody's going to start following you again?
Yeah, that's true.
Because I didn't come back with the saber. So,
right. Well, and see too, we don't know yet what exactly Din's relationship to the armor is. You know, we see the armor and we see Emily inside, and we don't know, not all of us, one of us in the room might know, but
John,
we don't know that they're going to go with that's who's inside the suit. Is, you know, Din is a foundling. Is the armor a mother figure to Din? Has she been one of the people who took him and raised him up in the creed and made him who he is? I don't know.
Right. Yeah, you're saying that she could be much older than him, is what you're saying.
Yeah, literally she could be much older than him, or enough older than him that she was the big sister or the mother figure.
The mother figure. Yeah, that's interesting. I wouldn't be able to comment on that as far as I don't know. Yeah.
But that would actually make sense, tying into when she was, you know, indoctrinating Ravdar, the foundling down there, is that if they would just, you know, a lot of times in Star Wars and sci-fi stuff, they show a scene like that as a foreshadow for something like that. That actually ties directly into what you're talking about, Dave. That's actually an interesting, you know, as a juxtaposition, you know, to what may come in, and, you know, the deeper story that, you know, Chris is particularly, you know, talking about. It's all absolutely incredible, and this is what I think that, you know, going back to what we were talking about earlier about episodic television and, you know, the weekly draw versus, you know, instant gratification. Okay, starting in 15 seconds, go next episode. You're having these conversations, and it's awesome. I mean, it's everything we love about, not just about entertainment, but Star Wars in itself.
Yeah,
it's like, wow, you know.
Yeah, it's not just shootouts and speeder bikes in the forest or lightsabers at night. You know, it's like, these are really relatable stories that I feel like they're compelling because I could see myself in this situation, you know. And I'm meaning like as an audience member. So that's really the strength of these stories that John's writing. Like John wrote this episode, and by himself, and he you know, I think these are things that people think about, you know, and not just what video game am I going to play today? You know, it's like as you get older, there's these really complex things. You start having kids, or you're around, you know, your nieces or nephews or something, like what kind of impact am I going to have on this youngling, you know, this foundling? you start to think of those things as you get older. And so, I love these stories. They're so interesting to me. And we get space battles, and we get droids.
Oh, yeah.
So,
That's what I think I really enjoy about this episode, and I enjoy it, I think, more on the second watch, which this is for me, is that I don't get me wrong, I really loved Andor. I love the slow burn. I love the more intrigue and the spy type of story. But this was a Star Wars episode.
yeah,
You've got the sprinkling of the aliens. You've got the spot which droid is Chris Bartlett over and over and over again. You've got that. You've got the space battles. You've got this. You have all the things that really make this a Star Wars. And I think on my first watch, I thought this might have been a little bit slow and a little bit of kind of a filler where we're just revisiting and kind of, this was almost the whole time kind of just reviewing what had happened in previous seasons. But
you won't think that next week.
It's just kind of rounding out and gathering.
Dave, there's a build here that when you see the future chapters, you'll be glad that this story exists.
That's awesome.
Some of it I felt was a little sped up, like the way they jumped from the battle scene with the pirates to here. Now we're in this new location kind of thing. Felt really kind of like there should have been something in between to me, but of course, we're working with a finite amount of time for the show. But some of that just felt like they were moving from thing to thing a little quicker than I would expect. But again, we are used to the Andor pace at this point. So
well,
that may have been what was in the back of my head. But
I see what you're saying.
Like Dave said, one of the things that jumped out at me was the alien species that are in, the shots in between what else, the main action, which I really enjoy that whole.
So element. Jeff, you're talking about, Din returns to Navarro. Oh, things are all really changed here. But they still have some antagonists, and those are the pirates. And then, and then he escapes, and he takes the pirates kind of away from the place where Grief is trying to make better. He leads them away, and then it establishes that there is this weird unpredictable force of pirates that exists. He didn't destroy the ship, he didn't destroy the captain or Gorian Shard. He escaped out of there. So that is sort of like sitting on a shelf now for the rest.
But it wasn't so. I mean, I really enjoyed all the pirate interaction in that scene and everything. And it was just the way that they moved from that to the next scene kind of bugged me a little bit.
I see.
I felt there should have been more interim.
I think just like more saying that
even him just showing him the controls,
everything, all the little bits that we saw in this, we wanted more of, like now.
I'm with you.
Basically.
Great.
I would have really appreciated a 45-minute as opposed to 30,
which we got next week. They released the time. Next week's a 45-minute episode.
And a quick
in the back of my mind is knowing the runtime.
And a quick point to end on: is Mandalore really poisoned? Did the Empire spread that rumor? Are they stopping the Mandalorians?
It goes to the whole thing. What's myth and legend, and what's true, and what's something we've held on. What's a belief we've held on to forever that we thought was true, and where did that come from? Did it come from a reliable source or not?
Right,
absolutely. But with that in mind, thank you everybody for joining us this evening, and of course to our guest Chris. Thank you for jumping on with us last second. Greatly appreciated, and especially since this was an extremely droid-centric episode, it was nice to get the insight on there, and it's also like John and Jeff were saying, it's come to a point where all right, which one is Chris now? So it's almost become a drinking game. It's like which droid is Chris? So it's awesome.
Okay, well. I love that you're playing
this episode would kill you from alcohol poisoning.
Oh, just wait. You've seen one of the trailers.
Well, we
You
saw the
tease.
trailer.
Oh yeah, there's a
You saw
whole
the
scene that's going to be
trailer.
out of hand, right?
I mean, you should probably drink mocktails if you're going to be playing that game, because you won't make it to the end of the episode.
That's
Anyway,
fantastic.
no, I really appreciate you guys having me, and I really love that you're playing along, that you're watching along with us, because like I said, we wouldn't have a show without you guys watching. So thank you so much, and thank you, Ashley, and everybody else for all the questions that you send. We love engagement with the fans on these stories, because we make them for you. So so thanks for caring so much to ask about them.
Awesome. John, anything before we close out?
Oh, just that. Thanks to Chris, and thanks for the richness you bring to each episode. You were
Thanks.
talking a little bit about your ideas for colors for the drives, and just your overall input into these episodes is not to be understated, and we really appreciate that, and we can see that. So thank you for that.
Oh, great. Well, I can't tell you everything, but some of the stuff that I can, I'd like to share. So
Jeff.
It's great to hear everything any bit of insight you give us on the show. Especially, I appreciate your involvement, specifically having being a builder as well. That kind of stuff really makes me like happy more inside, for people that have gone from just being an amazing fan with this kind of thing, and then being able to go into the actual production side is just truly amazing.
Thank you.
And Dave.
Well, I'm just gonna tack on to what Jeff said. I think it's really great to know that it's not that the criminals are running the asylum, but that the fans are who's in charge of the franchise at this point. That's all those creators and those fans are who's making this show, and that's really heartening to know.
Great. Well, you're right. The fans are making the show, and more than in terms of involvement and ideas that come from fans and stuff. But the whole backbone is John and Dave. But the color and the skin, the muscle and everything, a lot of times it comes from fans that love it so much that they want to tell true Star Wars stories. So I'm so glad you guys appreciate that and can see that, because anyway, I'm glad you can appreciate that. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. And thank you very much, Chris. And please take a look at everything that's going on in the Virtual Cantina Network. This weekend, we got the Jedi Archives coming back. And also stay tuned, because next Wednesday, we have the preliminary rounds for Alderaan Idol 2023, and we are going to announce who is going to be the guest host for Idol. We did announce this past week that one of the judges is going to be Tina Simmons from Return of the Jedi. So we're very, very excited about that. But once again, Chris, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We'll see you next week, guys, for Episode 3, Chapter 18 of The Mandalorian. So, Spencer, with everybody saying, this is the way.
This is
the way.